The word namaz and the concept of namaz originated in Persia. Although the word namaz has been adopted in the Urdu language, namaz quite clearly does not imply salah. Salah is a unique word for a unique practice. Namaz comes nowhere near what salah is. For now, let us look at the origins of namaz. Salamun alaikum, peace be with you. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the specially merciful. My name is Ayub Karim and welcome to my channel, Quran Inspires Me. Namaz originated with Zoroastrianism, as we will see later in this video. Zoroastrianism is an ancient Iranian religion and one of the world's oldest organized faiths, based on the teaching of their Persian-speaking prophet called Zoroaster. Zoroastrianism, also called Mazdaism or Maganism, was once the state religion of the Achaemenid Empire and the Sassanid Empire. The most important texts of Zoroastrianism are those contained in the Avesta, which includes the central writings thought to be composed by Zoroaster, known as the Gathas, that defines the teachings of Zoroaster, and the Yasna, which serves as the basis for worship. Zoroastrians believe that there is one universal, transcendent, all good and uncreated supreme deity, whom they call Ahura Mazda, meaning the wise Lord. The roots of Zoroastrianism is traced back to the 2nd millennium before Christ, and it enters recorded history around the 6th century BC. It served as a state religion of the ancient Iranian empires for more than 1,000 years, but declined from the 7th century after Christ onwards, as a direct result of the Muslim conquest of Persia. But these Muslims were not just Muslims to the Persians. They were Arabs. And the Persians saw the Arabs as the downtrodden dredges of the human race, and this bugged the Persians. All that the Persians could think of was revenge. They could not believe, but more so, they could not stomach it. They could not live by the fact that they were conquered by a bunch of barbarians, who now are the superiors. They believed that they were the superior race, and they drew the battle lines, that they will not stop until they defeated the Arabs again to reduce them to a status of no consequence. In the year 750, the Abbasids, with the help of the Persians who converted to Islam, and the Persians of Zoroastrianism, formed a coalition and overthrew the Umayyads. What most Muslims do not know about our history is that the Abbasid revolution was largely carried out by Persians. The Abbasid general Abu Muslim, who led the coalition of Muslim Zoroastrian armies to victory, was a Persian and not an Arab. Zoroastrians who became Muslims received preferential treatment and favors in the new government, both in Iran and the Muslim capital, the city of Baghdad. This was done to reduce the tension and antagonism between the Arabs and Persians that accepted Islam. But the converted Persians saw this as an opportunity to work from within the government to reduce the power of the ruling Arabs. They could not wage a war against the Muslim Arabs, so they began a process to destroy the Muslim Arabs from within by making changes to the deen of Allah that was being practiced by the Muslims. They learned that the power of the Muslims was in the practice of the Quran, and they sought out many ways to detract the Muslims from the practice of the Quran. And slowly but surely, they changed many things about the deen of Allah into a religion like theirs, that is like that of Zoroastrianism. The Abbasid Caliphate, even though the Caliphs were Arabs, but the men who established and managed the new regime, the government of the Abbasid Empire, were predominantly Persians. They were Zoroastrians. And so, Persian arts and literature, Persian philosophy and education flourished under the Abbasid rule. This did not exclude the Persian religion, Zoroastrianism. The Persians worked very hard and planted the roots of Zoroastrianism among the Muslims. And over the next several centuries, all they had to do was nurture it and propagate it in the name of Islam. And so, within the first 2 centuries of humiliation, the Persians conquered their conquerors, that is the Arabs. The original Islam of Prophet Muhammad was gradually changed to what we now have as traditional Islam. The deen of Allah, which Prophet Muhammad practiced and taught, was completely vanquished almost 950 to 1000 years after the Prophet Muhammad. So, how successful were the Muslim Arabs in converting the Persians? Let us look at one example. There were many efforts made to convert the Zoroastrians to Islam, and despite the many economic and social incentives to convert them, Zoroastrians remained strong in some regions, particularly in those furthest away from the Caliphate capital at Baghdad. In Bukhara, which is present-day Uzbekistan, resistance to Islam in the 9th century was at its strongest. The Arab commander Qutayba had to try to convert his province 4 times. The first 3 times, the citizens reverted to the old religion, that is Zoroastrianism. Finally, the governor made the religion very, very difficult for them in every way. He converted their local fire temples into mosques and encouraged the local Zoroastrian population to attend Friday gatherings by paying each attendee 2 dirhams. It is noteworthy to mention here at this point that Imam Bukhari originated from Bukhara. That is how he has the title of Bukhari. Also, very important to note is that many scholars like Imam Bukhari were from Zoroastrian priesthood families, which had great influence on the generations that followed. And Imam Bukhari was one of those succeeding generations. There exist many similarities between Zoroastrianism and the Abrahamic religions. Here I am only going to concentrate on Islam, not the Islam of the Quran, not the Islam that Prophet Muhammad practiced according to the Quran, but the created Islam of the Sunnis and Shias, which is commonly referred to as traditional Islam, the Islam that is being practiced by Muslims today. What is historically known is that for more than 1000 years, Zoroastrianism was a very prominent religion, certainly the most powerful in the Middle East, perhaps the most powerful in the world at that time in history, and also the most influential religion of the time. Then came the Quran with Prophet Muhammad. He practiced the Islam of the Quran, and he taught and encouraged his companions, no matter how few in number they were. It is by the practicing of the Quran and practicing the Salah of the Quran that these Arabs defeated the powerful Persians. They did not defeat the powerful Persians because they were practicing Hadiths and reading Namaz. So, in order for the Persians to destroy the Islam of the Quran, they initiated their plot for destruction, and they had an immense advantage in that most of the Persians were holding senior governmental positions during the Abbasid era. So, they began their work and encouraged people like Imam Bukhari and the like to do the bidding. So, they developed what we now have as traditional Islam, which was strongly influenced by and founded by Zoroastrianism. It was influenced to such a great degree that the tenets of faith and practices that were originally found in Zoroastrianism were now incorporated into Islam very, very gradually. And now we see a very noticeable level of change, which we call traditional Islam. In fact, many aspects of Islam that many people think of and practice typify Islam with having their roots in Zoroastrianism. There are many similarities in the practice between traditional Islam and Zoroastrianism. I am now going to deal with the night journey because we want to establish the origins of Namaz. The Isra and Miraj are 2 parts of a night journey that, according to Islamic tradition, the Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, took during a single night around the year 621. In the journey, Prophet Muhammad travels on a burak to the furthest mosque where he leads the other prophets in prayer. He then ascends through the 7 heavens where he speaks to Allah. Finally, Allah instructs Prophet Muhammad to tell his followers to pray 5 times a day. This so-called unique night journey is also found in the book of Arta Viraf of the Persian religion Zoroastrianism. The Zoroastrian story describes Arta Viraf's journey on a mule called Barag. Our Prophet went up on the Burak, Arta Vira went up on the Barag. Same difference. Then he went up into the heavens under the guidance of an angel named Sharosh. He passed from one utopia or from one heaven to another until he reached the presence of God, the ruler of the universe. He was then given the command that he has to instruct the people of the earth to pray 5 times a day. Every day. In both religions, Zoroastrianism and traditional Islam, there is specified worship of 5 times a day, which specified worship is in relation to the movement of the sun. Zoroastrians call this time-specified ritual worship namaz. Namaz is the Persian word describing this time-specified ritual prayer. As it is with the ancient Greeks, they call it Nemos, or Sanskrit, they call it Namaz, N-A-M-A-S, or the Urdu Namaz, N-A-M-A-A-Z. Even the Turkish Ottoman Empire and the Indian Mughal Empire were deeply influenced by the Persians, adopting and using many Persians or Iranic terms instead of sticking to the original Islamic Arabic forms. And so, Salah was substituted in word and used interchangeably with Namaz, and the Salah of the Quran was gradually changed and replaced by the Persian ritual called Namaz. The striking similarity between traditional Islam and Zoroastrianism in the timing of the 5 daily worship raises more suspicion than solutions to the inquiring mind. Kindly take note of the striking similarities of the time. Dawn, we have Fajr, they have Havan. Noon, we have Zohar, they have Rapitwan. Afternoon, we have Asr, they have Uziren. Evening, we have Maghrib, they have Avishutrim. Night, we have Isha, they have Ushayen. Furthermore, yet another striking similarity is that Zoroastrians recite portions of their holy book, the Avesta, in the original language of its revelation when performing their ritual namaz. The traditional Muslims also have to recite portions of the Quran in the original language of its revelation, that is Arabic, when performing the ritual namaz. All the above relates to the origins of namaz and not salah. But here is the part I am still trying to figure out. According to the Quran, Allah is giving stipulation or breakdown for inheritance. So we read in Surah 4 verse 11 and 12. I am not going to read the whole thing, but I just want you to get the gist of this. Allah directs you as regards your children's inheritance. To the male, a portion equal to that of 2 females. If only daughters, 2 or more, their share is 2/3 of the inheritance. If only one, her share is half. So, you notice that Allah is giving you fractions. But you can go through the whole ayah. The point I'm making here is that Allah understands numbers. So, according to our ulama and Islamic scholars, Salah is the most important aspect of a Muslim. Is it more important than inheritance? But Allah is giving us the figures, the breakdown for inheritance. But for Salah, Allah is absolutely silent in this regard. Although Salah is of primary importance, Allah does not tell us for Fajr 2 rakat Sunnah and for Fajr 2 rakat Farz. The same applies to all 5 namaz. Allah does not give us the count, the number of rakats for each ritual namaz. Why? Allah does not answer this question because Allah gave us Salah, which is not a ritual namaz. So, our ulama and Islamic scholars attempt to answer this for Allah. They say that Allah does not give us the details in the Quran. We have to go to the Ahadiths for these details. I say, okay, let us go to the Ahadiths for the details. I started with this book, the 40 Ahadiths of Salah. And then I went to the book of Salah in Bukhari and Muslim. I was looking for the number of rakats for each namaz. At the end of it all, I was truly disappointed. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, there are no such records of the number of rakats in the Ahadiths. I wanted to know why I, a Hanafi, had to read 17 rakats for Isha, while my Shafi brothers and sisters could read 11 rakats. Who gave us these numbers of rakats? Who gave us 4 for Fajr, 12 for Zohar, 8 for Asr, 7 for Maghrib, and 17 for Isha? Who authorized these figures? I surely did not come across it in the Ahadiths. Maybe I missed it. If some ulama or Islamic scholar would be kind enough to refer me to these Ahadiths, I would greatly appreciate their assistance in this matter. Dear brothers and sisters, I know that most of you are not going to believe me. So I suggest that you get in contact with your local ulama or Islamic scholar and ask them to show you a hadith that gives you the number of rakats for each namaz. Do that. If not, check it out yourselves and see if you can find it. I know that most of you will not check it out for yourselves. It is too tedious a task. So I am begging you. Yes, I am begging you. Please ask your ulama or Islamic scholars. For the sake of establishing the truth, ask them to show you a hadith that gives the number of rakats for each namaz and its breakdown. There is no such hadith. But nevertheless, please ask them. They will refer you to something else. I know what it is, and I am not going to tell you. Chances are that some of you may know it already. I will inform you about this in one of my future videos. But for now, you, please go and ask them. They will refer you to a third source. So now we have a third source of ritual practice in traditional Islam. So, the Quran, the book of Allah, was not good enough for you people. You created the Ahadiths, and this creation of yours is still not good enough for you. So, why do the ulama and Islamic scholars insist on blowing the trumpet about the Quran and Ahadiths, Quran and Sunnah, when the Ahadith does not have all the details? So now, you created a third source. That means the ulama and Islamic scholars are lying to the masses when they say the Ahadith has all the details. I recommend that you watch my video QIM 008 to get a better understanding of this concept. Take a look at this short clip of Zoroastrians. They look so much like our Sunni brothers and sisters, and their priests look so much like our ulama and Islamic scholars. Or should I say that our Sunni brothers and sisters look so much like them, and our ulama and Islamic scholars look so much like their priests. So now, nobody knows the origin of the number of rakats, yet the whole world of traditional Muslims abide by this unknown ritual prayer called Namaz. Many people worldwide still read Namaz. The Jewish people still do. Take a look at this video clip. Even certain people among the Bedouins used to read Namaz. And they even read Namaz facing the Kaaba, right in front of the Kaaba, among their many forms of idols of worship. Prophet Muhammad came and put a stop to all these paganistic practices, including Namaz, which was a pagan form of worship. He replaced all of this with the Quran, and he gave us Salah, which had to be established and not ritualized. We do not have the number of rakats mentioned in the Quran, nor is it mentioned in the Ahadith, yet we have it and practice it from an unknown source that is found in Zoroastrianism, which we have incorporated into traditional Islam and boldly attribute this to Allah. And that is the origin or non-origin of Namaz. Is this the Islam, an obscure type of Islam that Prophet Muhammad gave us to practice? Until my next video, do keep well. I am Ayub Karim from Quran Inspires Me. Understand the Quran to experience the revelation. Salamun alaikum. Peace be with you.